Every single morning, millions of seniors across this country sit down to what they believe is a healthy breakfast. Maybe it's a bowl of cereal with low-fat milk. Maybe it's toast with orange juice and a small container of yogurt. It feels responsible. It feels like the right start to the day. But what if I told you that one specific type of breakfast, something sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, something you've probably been eating for years, is quietly and systematically destroying the very nerves that control your hands, your feet, your balance, and your memory? What if the breakfast you trust most is the one doing the most damage? I know that sounds alarming, and I want you to stay with me, because what I'm about to share is not meant to frighten you, it's meant to protect you. There is a growing body of neurological research pointing to a direct connection between a common morning food pattern and accelerating nerve damage in adults over 65. And the most disturbing part is that the symptoms often begin so gradually that most people don't connect them to their diet at all. They think it's aging. They think it's just how life feels after a certain point. But it isn't. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your nervous system during and after a high glycemic breakfast, you will never look at your morning routine the same way again. If you've been experiencing tingling in your fingers or toes, if your balance feels slightly off, like the floor doesn't quite feel solid beneath your feet, if you've been having strange sensations, burning, buzzing, numbness, especially in your lower legs, if your thinking feels slower in the mornings than it used to, if you've had moments of dizziness or brain fog right after eating, these are not random. These are not simply the price of getting older. These may be early warning signals from your nervous system, and your breakfast might be making every single one of them worse. Before we go any further, if you find this kind of information valuable, the kind that your doctor often doesn't have time to walk you through, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to this channel. At Dr. Silas Redford Wellness, every video we create is built around one purpose: giving you real, research-based information that helps you protect your health and feel better in your daily life. Your support makes it possible to keep doing this work. Now, let's get into what's really going on. I want to start with a woman named Dorothy. Dorothy is 72 years old and lives in a small town in central Ohio. She retired from teaching elementary school about 7 years ago and has spent her retirement doing all the right things: walking every morning, attending a weekly yoga class, keeping up with her garden. But about 2 years ago, Dorothy started noticing something strange. Her feet felt odd. Not painful, exactly. More like they were wrapped in a thin layer of cotton. She couldn't always feel the floor properly when she walked. She started holding on to the railing on the stairs, not because she had to, but because she felt like she needed to. Her hands began to tingle at odd moments. She dropped a full coffee mug one morning and couldn't understand why her grip had let go without warning. Dorothy went to her doctor. She had blood work done, nerve conduction testing, an MRI, and the results came back with a diagnosis of peripheral neuropathy, nerve damage affecting the extremities. Her doctor told her it was common in older adults and prescribed a medication to manage the discomfort. But what Dorothy's doctor never asked her was this: what do you eat for breakfast? Because here's what the research is starting to show with increasing clarity. Peripheral neuropathy, one of the most common and most debilitating neurological conditions affecting seniors in America, has a direct and powerful connection to blood sugar. And the connection doesn't only apply to people with diagnosed diabetes. It applies to anyone whose blood sugar is being repeatedly, routinely spiked by the foods they eat first thing in the morning. And that is a far larger population than most people realize. Let me explain what actually happens inside your body during a high glycemic breakfast, because this is where the real story is. When you sit down to a bowl of sweetened cereal, or white toast with jam, or a flavored instant oatmeal packet, or a glass of commercial orange juice, foods that are high in refined carbohydrates and added sugars, your blood sugar rises sharply, very sharply, much more sharply than your body is designed to handle on a regular basis. In a younger, metabolically healthy person, the insulin response catches up quickly and blood sugar comes back down. But after 65, something important has changed. Insulin sensitivity declines significantly with age. The pancreas still produces insulin, but the body's cells don't respond to it as efficiently. This means blood sugar stays elevated for longer after a high-carbohydrate meal. And those extended periods of elevated blood sugar, even in people who don't have diabetes, even in people whose fasting glucose looks normal on a standard blood test, are doing something destructive to the smallest blood vessels in your body, the ones that feed your nerves. Your nervous system depends on a network of extremely tiny blood vessels called the vasa nervorum. These microscopic capillaries carry oxygen and nutrients to the nerve fibers themselves. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly and stays elevated, it triggers a process called oxidative stress and inflammation inside these tiny vessels. The vessel walls become thicker, less flexible, less able to deliver what the nerves need. Over time, and this process can unfold over years before symptoms appear, the nerve fibers begin to lose their protective coating, called the myelin sheath. Once that coating starts to erode, the nerve's ability to send clear signals is compromised, and that is when you begin to feel it. The tingling, the numbness, the burning, the unsteady feet, the dropped objects, the fuzzy thinking. And here is the part that most seniors never realize until it's too late. Nerve damage doesn't always announce itself with dramatic symptoms right away. It begins as subtle interference, a slight tingling that comes and goes, a feeling of mild unsteadiness that you dismiss as fatigue, a brief numbness in a fingertip that you assume is from sleeping in a strange position. For years, these signals can stay quiet enough to ignore, but underneath, the damage is accumulating. And by the time the symptoms become hard to ignore, by the time you're holding the stair railing and dropping coffee mugs and feeling cotton wrapped around your feet, a meaningful amount of nerve damage may already have occurred. This is not meant to frighten you into hopelessness. Quite the opposite, because understanding this process means you have power over it. The interventions are real, they are accessible, and they work. But first, let's talk more specifically about the breakfast culprits, because some of them will genuinely surprise you. The obvious ones are the breakfast cereals. And I don't just mean the sugary ones marketed to children. I mean a very wide range of cereals that are marketed specifically to adults as heart-healthy or whole grain or fiber-rich. Many of these cereals have glycemic index values comparable to table sugar. They spike blood sugar rapidly and dramatically, often within 20 to 30 minutes of eating. The fiber in some of them is not enough to offset the refined carbohydrate load, and the addition of dried fruit, honey, or flavored coatings makes the situation significantly worse. But what shocked researchers when they began looking more closely at breakfast patterns in older adults was the role of fruit juice. For generations, a glass of orange juice has been considered practically synonymous with a healthy morning. It's associated with vitamin C, with freshness, with doing something good for your body. But commercially processed orange juice, and this includes many brands labeled not from concentrate and no sugar added, delivers a rapid, concentrated hit of fructose that bypasses much of the normal digestive slowing process and enters the bloodstream quickly. A 12-ounce glass of orange juice can contain as much sugar as a can of soda. And in an older adult whose insulin sensitivity is already reduced, that sugar load is a problem. Then there is the seemingly innocent, instant-flavored oatmeal. Regular whole oats, steel-cut or rolled, are genuinely beneficial. They digest slowly, support stable blood sugar, and provide real fiber. But the flavored instant varieties, the maple and brown sugar packets, the peaches and cream, the apple cinnamon, are a very different product. They are pre-cooked, finely ground, and heavily sweetened. Their glycemic impact is substantially higher than traditional oats, and for someone eating them every morning, believing they are making a healthy choice, the cumulative effect over months and years is significant. White bread and refined grain toast, especially topped with jam, honey, or sweetened nut butters, complete this picture. The combination of fast-digesting carbohydrates eaten together first thing in the morning, when cortisol levels are already naturally higher, making blood sugar management even more challenging, creates a perfect metabolic storm for nerve damage over time. Let me tell you about a man named Gerald. Gerald is 68 and spent 35 years working as an air traffic controller outside of Atlanta. He retired in good shape, active, trim, mentally sharp. His morning routine was a bowl of heart-healthy granola with low-fat milk, a glass of orange juice, and a cup of coffee. He did this 7 days a week for years. About 18 months ago, Gerald began experiencing what he described as a persistent buzzing sensation in his right foot. It wasn't painful, just strange. Then it spread to his left foot, then began in his hands. He started having trouble with his balance at the gym. He stopped using the free weights because he didn't trust his grip anymore. He became quieter, more withdrawn. His wife noticed a change in his confidence. A man who had guided aircraft through complex airspace was now nervous about walking on uneven ground. Gerald's neurologist identified peripheral neuropathy and also flagged that his post-meal blood sugar readings, when tested 2 hours after eating, were running significantly higher than ideal, even though his fasting glucose appeared within range. His doctor described him as pre-diabetic, but in a way that clearly hadn't communicated the urgency. Because Gerald, like so many people in that middle zone, had been eating his way toward nerve damage one breakfast bowl at a time without knowing it. What changed for Gerald, and this is the hopeful part, was remarkably straightforward. His neurologist, working alongside a dietitian, helped him completely restructure his mornings, and within 4 months, his post-meal blood sugar readings had normalized significantly. His neuropathy symptoms did not disappear entirely, but they stabilized. They stopped progressing, and in several areas showed genuine improvement. He told his wife that his feet finally felt like his feet again. Now let's talk about what protecting your nerves actually looks like at breakfast, because the practical side of this matters just as much as the science. The single most important shift is moving away from high-glycemic carbohydrates as the foundation of your morning meal and replacing them with protein and healthy fat. This is not about starving yourself or following an extreme diet. It is about giving your blood sugar the most stable possible start to the day, so that those tiny blood vessels feeding your nerves are not being bombarded with sugar every single morning. Eggs are one of the best breakfast foods for nerve health. They are rich in high-quality protein, which digests slowly and does not raise blood sugar. They contain B vitamins, especially B12, which are directly required for the health and maintenance of the myelin sheath that protects your nerve fibers. And they are genuinely satisfying, which helps prevent the mid-morning hunger that drives people back toward high-sugar snacks. Speaking of B12, this is a nutrient that deserves its own special mention in any conversation about nerve health over 65. And what doctors rarely explain is just how widespread B12 deficiency is in older adults, and how directly it contributes to nerve damage. B12 is essential for synthesizing myelin. Without enough of it, the protective coating around nerve fibers literally breaks down. And after 65, the ability to absorb B12 from food decreases significantly because of reduced stomach acid production. This means many seniors are walking around with B12 levels that look borderline on a blood test, but are functionally insufficient for their nervous system's needs. Metformin, one of the most commonly prescribed medications for blood sugar management, is known to further deplete B12 levels. And yet many seniors taking metformin have never been told to supplement B12. This is one of the most consequential oversights in senior primary care, and it's happening in doctors' offices across the country every single day. Foods rich in B12 include eggs, salmon, sardines, beef, and fortified foods. For many seniors over 65, supplementation with methylcobalamin, a highly bioavailable form of B12, is genuinely worth discussing with your doctor, especially if you're on metformin or a proton pump inhibitor, which also reduces B12 absorption. Beyond eggs and B12-rich foods, other excellent breakfast choices for nerve protection include avocado, rich in healthy monounsaturated fats that support nerve membrane integrity, as well as potassium and B vitamins. Walnuts and other nuts, which provide omega-3 fatty acids that reduce the inflammatory burden on nerve tissue. Full-fat plain Greek yogurt with a small amount of fresh berries. The protein and fat slow the digestion of the natural fruit sugars, keeping blood sugar stable. and wild-caught salmon, which may feel unconventional as a breakfast food, but has a long tradition in many cultures and provides some of the most powerful nerve-protective nutrients available: omega-3 fatty acids, B12, vitamin D, and anti-inflammatory compounds, all in one serving. Now, let me address something important, because I know some of you are thinking about oatmeal right now. Traditional oatmeal, specifically steel-cut oats or thick rolled oats prepared with water and topped with nuts, seeds, and a small amount of fresh fruit, can be a genuinely supportive breakfast for blood sugar and nerve health. The difference is the preparation and the additions. Steel-cut oats have a glycemic index roughly half that of instant flavored oatmeal. Adding a tablespoon of almond butter, some walnuts, a few blueberries, and a sprinkle of ground flaxseed transforms oatmeal from a blood sugar spike into a slow, steady, nerve-supporting meal. It's not about avoiding carbohydrates entirely. It's about choosing the right ones and pairing them wisely. I also want to talk about something that many people don't associate with breakfast at all, and that's the timing of your morning meal in relation to movement. Research has consistently shown that even a 10 to 15-minute walk after eating significantly blunts the blood sugar spike from a meal. Your muscles, when active, absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream without requiring insulin. This means that a short morning walk after breakfast, even a gentle stroll around the block, even some light movement inside the house, can meaningfully reduce the post-meal blood sugar burden on your nerve-feeding blood vessels. It's one of the simplest, most powerful, and most underused tools available to any senior concerned about nerve health. I want to come back to Dorothy for a moment, the retired school teacher from Ohio who had been dealing with peripheral neuropathy for 2 years. After her diagnosis, her situation felt discouraging. The medication she was prescribed helped somewhat with the discomfort, but didn't address the underlying cause. It was only when a friend shared information about the connection between diet and nerve damage that Dorothy started asking different questions. She spoke with a nutritionist. She overhauled her breakfast, said goodbye to her daily bowl of bran flakes and glass of juice, and started her mornings with scrambled eggs, half an avocado, and a small handful of walnuts. She began a B12 supplement. She started taking a walk after breakfast every morning, even on cold days. 6 months later, Dorothy told her daughter that the cotton-wrapped feeling in her feet had become significantly less constant. Not completely gone. Some nerve damage, once established, takes longer to reverse, and some cannot fully reverse. But the progression had stopped. The new symptoms that had been slowly appearing had quieted. And more than that, Dorothy said she felt like she had taken something back. Some sense of agency over her own body. Some hope that the trajectory could be changed. And that is what I want you to take from this today. Not fear, not helplessness, but information. Real, actionable information. And the knowledge that your choices matter. That what you put on your plate first thing in the morning is not a small, inconsequential detail. It is a message you send to your nervous system before you've even finished your first cup of coffee. And you have the power to change that message, starting tomorrow. Your nerves are not beyond protection. Your body, even in its 60s, 70s, and 80s, retains remarkable capacity for healing and stabilization when it is given what it needs. The damage that has accumulated is not necessarily permanent. The damage that hasn't yet happened can still be prevented. And the person sitting at your breakfast table every morning, that person deserves to feel steady on their feet, clear in their thinking, confident in their hands, and present in the life they've worked so hard to build. If this video has made you think differently about your morning routine, even just a little, please share it with someone you care about. A spouse, a sibling, a close friend who has been struggling with unexplained tingling or balance issues. You could genuinely be sharing something that changes the direction of their health. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you or someone you love been dealing with neuropathy or nerve-related symptoms? Have you made changes to your diet that have made a difference? Your story matters to this community, and it might be exactly what someone else needs to read on a day when they feel like there's no point in trying. Keep asking questions. Keep learning. Keep making small, steady changes, because in the long run, those small changes are everything. We'll be here with more information every week, and we are so glad you're part of this community.